According to the report, on the Volyn and Politia fronts, the Belarusian armed forces are focusing on strengthening the security of the Ukraine-Belarus border. Meanwhile, Belarusian special forces stationed in the areas near the border with Ukraine, on Belarusian territory, have been rotated. A meeting of communications specialists and technical staff was held as part of a general check on the combat readiness of the Belarusian armed forces. Meanwhile, the Russian military did not carry out any active combat operations on the Syvershchina front, but carried out a missile attack on civilian infrastructure around the Hudel, Sumy area. The Russian army also shelled Bachivsk, Kodyne and Slavorod in the Sumy region. On the Slobozhanskina front, Russia continues to prepare for an attack, replenishing weapons, equipment and other supplies from the territory of the Russian Federation. The Russian military is firing artillery and multiple rocket launchers of MLRS at the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in order to reduce the offensive potential of Ukraine. On the Kharkiv front, Russia did not conduct active combat operations and focused its main efforts on the containment of the armed forces of Ukraine. The Russian military shelled civilian infrastructure in the areas around Bashkirovka, Mospino, Ruska Lazova, Pechenihi and Mykolivka and carried out an airstrike on Nov. On the Sloviansk front, Russian forces concentrated all their energies on combat engineering tasks. Civilian infrastructure was shelled in and around Dybrin, Korolka, Vernapilia, Chervona Poliana, as well as other towns and villages. Russian military aircraft conducted an airstrike on the area around Dovhanki. Russian troops tried to attack Bohorodikna and Dolina, but were unsuccessful and were forced to retreat after suffering losses inflicted by the Ukrainian self-defense forces. On the Donetsk front, Russian forces are continuing to shell along the entire line of communication. On the Lyman front, Russia shelled civilian infrastructure in the areas around Yarov, Shurov, Staryi Karavan and Rehorodok. Russian troops entered Studnok, fighting continued there. On the Severodonetsk front, Russian forces are continuing to fire on Ukrainian self-defense forces positions and civilian infrastructure in and around Severodonetsk, Borivsk, Ustanivka and Lysychansk. Russian strike aircraft carried out airstrikes near the village of Myrna Dolina. Russian forces attempted to attack Metyolkine and Bilohorivka but were unsuccessful and were forced to retreat to their previously held positions. On the Bakhmut front, Russian troops are shelling the areas around Pokrovsk, New York, Zolot, Kamyshuvka, Mykolivka, Berestov, Bilohorivka and Vrubivka. They tried to attack Vrubivka, but failed. The Russian ground forces and strike aircraft have carried out airstrikes on infrastructure in the Vidrodzenia, Rody, Novolyahansk and Dolomin regions. On the Avdiivka, Korakov, Novopavlovsk and Zaporizhia fronts, Russia does not carry out active combat operations, but continues to equip civilian infrastructure in the areas around Kamianka, Vasil, Mariinka, Novomykhailivka, Avdiivka, Pisky and Zalota Niva. Russian forces attempted to engage in combat and conduct offensive operations around Krasnohorivka and Poltavka, but were unsuccessful and had to retreat to previously held positions. On the Pivdeniai front, the Russian army used mortars, artillery and MLRS to fire on civilian infrastructure around the Caucasus, Lepetyka, Mitrivka, Osokorivka, Blahodin and Stepova Dolina. Russian forces continued to conduct aerial reconnaissance and attempt to attack the Kryvyi Rih front, but were repulsed and retreated to previously controlled positions.